At 1:23 a.m. on the 26th of April 1986, the stillness of the night at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was shattered. Reactor 4 was undergoing a safety test intended to see whether it could continue to generate electricity during a power outage. What should have been a controlled procedure quickly turned into a nightmare. A combination of human errors, violations of protocols, and a flawed reactor design caused the reactor to lose stability. The metal walls shook violently, a massive steam explosion tore the building apart, and burning graphite was scattered across the roof. Glowing black chunks of nuclear fuel fell onto the floor, invisible to the naked eye but deadly. Each breath carried an invisible threat.
The radiation level on the reactor roof was enough to kill a man in minutes. The explosion was so powerful, it blew the reactor's 2,000-ton steel lid clean off the top of the core, littering the roof with intensely radioactive pieces of graphite.
Firefighters arrived without protective suits, believing it was just a routine roof fire. They were unaware that they were walking into a radioactive inferno. The Soviet government immediately moved to conceal the disaster. Despite radiation alarms triggering in Sweden within hours, the USSR refused to acknowledge the catastrophe. 36 hours after the explosion, buses arrived to evacuate the nearby town of Pripyat.
Внимание, внимание! Уважаемые товарищи! В связи с аварией на Чернобыльской атомной электростанции в городе Припяти складывается неблагоприятная радиационная обстановка. Сегодня, 27 апреля, начиная с 14:00 часов, возникает необходимость провести временную эвакуацию жителей города в близлежащие населенные пункты Киевской области.
Residents were told they could return in 3 days. Most never did. For weeks, the authorities downplayed the severity of the radiation, giving incomplete or false information. Even scientists and medical staff were often unaware of the true extent of contamination. The human response to the radioactive hazard was unprecedented. Robots meant to clear the radioactive debris melted or failed within minutes. So, human workers, later known as liquidators, were sent onto the roof to remove the molten fuel and burning graphite by hand. Each person had only 90 seconds to shovel radioactive material before the radiation reached lethal levels. Helicopters dropped thousands of tons of sand, clay, and boron in a desperate attempt to smother the burning reactor core. The fire burned for more than a week, sending radioactive clouds across Europe, carried by wind and rain. The immediate and long-term effects of radiation were devastating. Acute radiation sickness manifested within hours for those closest to the reactor, with symptoms including nausea, vomiting, severe headaches, burns, and hair loss. Over time, thousands developed chronic illnesses. Children exposed to radioactive iodine experienced a 3- to 4-fold increase in thyroid cancer. Leukemia and other blood cancers became significantly more common in liquidators and nearby residents. Long-term exposure led to heart disease, liver and kidney problems, gastrointestinal disorders, and neurological damage. Nadirely documented cases included cataracts forming within months, unusual bone marrow failures, and rare cancers previously unseen in the region.
По сравнению с 1986 годом и настоящим временем, в целом мы отмечаем увеличение заболеваемости различными онкологическими заболеваниями порядка в 2,5 раза. Ничего страшного не делаем. Это прежде всего увеличение количества злокачественных лимфом. Наблюдается двустороннее поражение почек, наблюдается поражение органов желудочно-кишечного тракта, поражение печени, забрюшинного пространства. И количество таких больных также мы считаем, что значительно увеличилось. И вопрос прогнозирования, вопрос о выживаемости таких детей очень насущный. И зачастую бывает так, что мы многого не успеваем и не можем делать из-за того, что в слишком запущенном состоянии они к нам поступают.
Even decades later, contaminated soil and forests continued to harbor dangerous levels of cesium-137 and strontium-90, affecting plants, animals, and the human food chain far beyond the initial exclusion zone. The liquidators themselves suffered enormously. Many lived with the knowledge that their service could shorten their lives, yet they worked tirelessly, often without proper protective equipment. Their sacrifices contained what could have been an even greater continental disaster. Official records show that thousands developed severe radiation-induced illnesses, and some of the most dedicated workers succumbed to cancer within years. Rare accounts from medical archives reveal liquidators experiencing neurological degeneration, extreme fatigue, and severe immune deficiencies far earlier than their peers. Even as humans fled, nature began to reclaim the abandoned towns. Forests, rivers, and wildlife returned to the exclusion zone. Wolves, boars, bears, and large birds roam freely where children once played and families lived. The Chernobyl disaster is not merely an engineering failure. It is a tragedy born of secrecy, denial, and human hubris. It stands as a stark reminder of the invisible, persistent dangers of radiation, the high cost of hiding the truth, and the human toll paid by those who dared to confront it. Today, Chernobyl remains a monument not only to technological hubris, but also to courage, sacrifice, and the enduring consequences of misinformation.